congrats, Kyle, for your new job. Uh, what's your position? What do you do?
Officially, I am a front-end developer with Rooms to Go.
Okay, front-end developer. And what stack are you using?
Man, that's actually pretty interesting. Uh, we're using yes on the back end with pretty simple stuff there.
Yeah.
But on the front end, we're using a framework,
Uh-huh.
and also we implement a GraphQL server to pull all of their
Because
furniture data up.
you need that for I think I worked with years ago.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you do. And then we query that through to pull the infinite amounts of furniture data that we want to display on the front page. It's really cool, but that's our kind of big stack right now. The team that I'm working on is actually looking to move into Next.js server-side rendering,
Yeah.
which is super fascinating stuff. It's also got server for its GraphQL server or queries
Yeah.
to kind of pull all that data into the front end. So that's been an adventure. I have to learn the old code base and kind of maintain, fix little bugs that they have there. But a lot of the newer development is happening in Next.js. So I get a lot of experience and exposure with some of the cutting edge technologies as well. And
How do you
so
feel, this is probably a loaded question. How do you feel about like AI and AI taking your job anytime soon? Like, I'm curious because every
um
time I speak with an experienced developer, they say no way, or maybe in 5 years, 10 years, whoever. But like, how do you feel about it now? Like,
AI is a great tool for developers, but I don't think it's at the point where it can replace developers. I think that there's going to be some generations incoming that might have that capability. Right now, the problem lies in context. Is it's almost impossible to give the AI enough context to get exactly what you want out of it without maintaining or being close to the code. So whether code is coming out of AI or not, I feel like you're going to need somebody to look at that and make sure it's actually right or actually what you need to do what you're doing.
yeah,
And so like it gets a lot of things right and it does a lot of things well. And I go often like will write up a component or something and then have a portion of it where I feel like it's inefficient or written badly. And I'll go to AI and I'll be like, hey, how can I do this better? And it gives me great ideas and great results from that. But as for you're just being like, build me this component, yeah, I mean, it'll get it right a little bit, but usually it's not exactly what you're looking for. So I don't think companies are at the point where they can switch over to that autonomously yet. Um, I don't know how fast that would be coming. I don't see it coming within the next year or two. But I mean, it's always a possibility. I don't know what the future holds.
yeah, that's true. Uh, anyway, side note.
Yeah, yeah, just side
Just
subject
curious
there.
about
I
that.
don't see it replacing me anytime soon. I'm not too scared about it. I feel like I'm going to push a little bit further past front end dev by the time that
I
wave
want to
hits.
ask you about that later. Hold that thought for a second, okay? Because I want to ask you about that. Is my internet okay? Yeah. Uh, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, you're
All
good.
right. Let's talk about what were you doing before you joined the program? I think you were following uh 100 devs or something like that. I don't.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So I took a moment to jump in a Leon Noel's program. There was a week at the very beginning. They like teach you how to learn. And that was really, really helpful. And then I started going through his program and he really wraps you around the basics,
Uh-huh.
gives you a lot more fluff than you need. But I mean, it's a live course that I was watching at a
Yeah.
non-live time. So, I mean, it's
Uh-huh.
to be expected that comes through with it. Anyways, I got to a point where like I was starting to work on full stack applications and things like this, but my code just didn't feel tight. It felt disorganized, spaghetti codey.
What made you feel that? Because I don't know if I ever told you this, but I often say to people like, hey, trust your gut, because your gut is telling the truth. Like, if you feel like you
Yeah,
are overcomplicating something, or like if you feel like there is a better way, you are probably right. So
yeah.
what made you trigger that gut feeling that you had?
I was building this war or card game essentially.
Card?
and I was making really good progress. I did some really cool things in it, and I was really proud of myself tackling some more difficult concepts that I thought were more difficult at the time, at least. And then I took a small break from it to work on some website stuff, and came back to about 2.5 weeks later just to work, give it a little improvement. And I was lost,
All right.
lost, lost. I couldn't find anything in my code base. I was just took me 3 hours the first day of sitting down with it to understand what I had done the last time I had touched it in order to continue working on it again. And so at that point, I was like, man, there's like, I'm not writing things in a way that is
Don't have a
efficient for me to
process.
work on them. Yeah, I don't have a process. My code isn't organized. I'm getting what I want out of my code, but I can't come back and work on it. It's not efficient. I thought about myself working for a company at like 80,000, 90,000, $100,000 a year. And I'm like, nobody's going to pay that kind of money for this code that's sitting in front of me right now. So
Mhm.
that's when I was like, all right, well, I need to make a
Uh,
change. I need to step it up a
I
little bit.
had sorry to interrupt, bro, but I had the same thing happening to me in my first job actually. Uh, I think I told you about my first job like plenty of times. Have I? I always
Yeah,
mention
I
it.
think so.
Like
Yeah.
how I was writing code and I was like proud of my nested ternaries and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Just to come back after 2 months and not being able to understand anything and then just create more bugs as I was solving them. And that triggered me to have imposter syndrome and I was scared to leave my first job. For
Mm.
like 2 years, I was scared to leave the job because I thought I got it by luck because I knew how bad my code was and I didn't know how to improve it because I was the lead developer in a company with only one front-end developer, which was me, you know?
Yeah.
So I can relate to you when it comes to this. Okay, yeah, continue.
Um, but yeah, I mean, that pretty much summed it up. That's when I realized that I needed to change things or kind of improve things, get things a little sharper.
Okay. And then you joined the program, and then I remember you said the first month you were like not sure about it. Can you talk about that? Remember?
Yeah.
You said that.
There's a lot of programs out there. There's a lot of coaches right now. The industry is wide, it's growing, and with that, you're always a little bit uncertain. You know, what am I going to get for my money? Right? Am I going to get somebody who just fills me with fluff, gives me empty advice? You know, am I going to get some guy who throws me through the ringer and makes me feel like I'm working for it, but you know, I'm not actually getting anywhere in the end? It's just like you're getting work out of your money, essentially, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I was scared of. Coming into the program, I was like, well, you know, this is an investment, so am I going to get my investment back out of it? Am I going to get a return on my investment,
When did
or am
you
I going to
when
shorten
did
my runway?
when did you start to feel like you are getting the right uh an ROI? Was it like
um,
2 weeks, a month, 3 months? When did you feel like if that happened?
it it was probably between the 3 week marker and the 2 month marker. In there at
What happened?
first, well, I was kind of going through the motions of the things that I'd already learned. I'm like, okay, I
I
get the
remember.
benefit of doing this. You know, it's not taking me too long because it's pretty fresh in my head. But I was seeing how you were working with the program and molding things and changing things, and you were seeing what was static and what was not. You were looking at the market and your students, and you're seeing what's working and what's not. And I saw a course that wasn't just like, well, you paid for this course, go through it, do it. But instead, I saw this, you know, community that we're a part of, this force or effort to actually get these people hired, not just like well, here's the meat grinder, hop in and hope you come out with a job on the other side sort of idea. It was more of like all right, well, what do you need to become better today? And then we would work on that. And I could see you were working with students that are already near the end of the course, and building new projects for them to work on and hone, more than just right knowing how to code, but knowing how to code with other people, knowing how to advise or take advice without damaging ego and things like that. So like I saw more value than just cleaning my code up, but also gaining professional experience. And I was like, all right, you know, there's something here. I think I made a good decision, to go in this direction.
were you able to like compare our program with some other stuff that was out there, like with friends or something like that?
No, unfortunately, now you can pay for like General Assembly boot camps and things like that, and they'll teach you like that one thing. What I did notice, because I got into like a free version of one of those at some point, what I did notice is it is kind of meat grinder thing. They're not looking to make you better at coding. They're just making sure that you grasp the concept that they're teaching.
The
And that doesn't necessarily make you better at coding. It doesn't make you look inward and say, how can I do what I've done better? It's just like, oh, now you know how to use async. Go out, use it now. Like,
Yeah, not
it's
use
just
it 100 times in 100 ways.
yeah, exactly, and kind of feeling out what would be the better way to do it. So I felt like those boot camps are really expensive, and you're going to get very shallow value out of them, in my opinion. I'm sure that that's not true for everybody. That's just how I operate. Um, and yeah, and Leon Noel's course was awesome, right? A free course, but in the same breath, um, there wasn't that direction on how can I do things better. This is how I do things. This is how I work with Express. This is how I write JavaScript. This is how you work in jQuery. But how do I do things great? Like not just good, but great. How do I organize my files? What does the structure of a project look like? All these little questions that I would have seem to be very difficult to answer.
I want to
I
ask
did get
you
that value out of
something
the program.
here. I want to ask you something here. Uh, what were you always like? I can tell you are an engineer based on the way you speak about things, right? And probably this came up in the interviews, you know, and that played a major uh, factor in you getting hired. Uh, what prompts me to say that is you being interested in the way what is the right way to structure things, like when did you start developing this interest in making things right? Were you always like this, or coding took it out from you?
In some things I'm a little bit of a perfectionist in, but mainly I'm a kind of go with the flow kind of person. I don't really hone in and focus on things. It's that same time where I was like, I need to step things up, and I looked at my spaghetti code with that project, and I was like, man, this is just like, who's going to pay me to do this? I'm investing all of my time daily. Like this is what I'm doing. I'm learning how to code. I'm fully invested in doing this. But look at what's in front of me right now. Look at what my full investment of time has brought me. Like I know how to do things and I've come really far. Like there's a lot to congratulate myself and be proud about, but there's so much further to go. Nobody's going to pay for this code that's sitting in front of me. And so that's when I really started kind of forming that, well, how do I do things better kind of thought. And that started just over time become a mantra, right? And especially as you made me kind of go back through the basics, that thought is lingering in my head. Not just how do I learn these basics, but how can I use them better than I've used them before?
Yeah,
So I do think that,
that's the reason why I put you through those, you know.
yeah, 100%, 100%. I definitely see that.
um I had a good question. Fuck, don't you hate it when you forget?
I love, yeah, it happens all the time.
Okay, what was like one of the biggest things that helped you in the program, besides the fact that you were able to like really go, because we really just practice the basics, if we're being honest, but we
Yeah.
practice them a lot, you know. And I think that,
Mhm.
oh yeah, oh fuck, I forgot again. um Besides like practicing the basics and like really like feeling comfortable with the basics, because I believe in life, bro, like you just need to master the basics, and everything else that comes on top of that is like the cherry on top, you know what I mean?
100%.
Like with sports, with diet, with personal lifestyle, with your relationships, if you just master the basics, you're good. Anything else is like good to have, you know.
Yeah.
Besides that, what specifically uh, made you happy to get in the program?
Um, I think that this is kind of where it breaks down for a lot of people.
Yeah,
If I were to have joined your course and expected you to get me a job, I would not have done very well in your course. Just plainly speaking.
yeah,
I think that I really read a lot of some of the emails you sent out and your website and things like that. And I heard you're 10x developer, right? You 10x the person that you're working with. And
Yeah,
so I took that to heart. I said, well, if I come in here and I expect him to just give me all the skills, I'm gonna get one times, right? I'm
bro.
not gonna get
Thanks
much
for
out of
saying
it.
this, bro. Thanks for saying this.
But
It's
if
so
I
true.
go in here with questions, if I'm focusing on what I see as problems in my code and really want answers on how to get those better, or come in with like a, hey, I've written this and it works, but is there a better way to structure it because it's
Yeah,
messy and I don't like it? Really coming in with more targeted questions, like with a purpose, right? Not just showing up to the meetings because it's meeting day, but going into the meetings with like, I have a question. I'm here because I need something from you.
yeah.
That's what really pushed beyond the basics and helped me develop a lot of the things that I was curious in. Because not only, I mean, let's be honest, not every time did you have a perfect answer to those questions, because some of them are hard, they're abstract, they're situations that we haven't all seen before because coding is that wide and diverse. But having you as an experienced developer to bounce things off of, to get good inspiration for ideas and a direction to go in, was invaluable to me. I wouldn't have been able to do this alone, essentially. I wouldn't have been able to bounce things off of the wall behind me or in front of me and get to the same spot. I needed someone with more experience to help guide that decision and direction making that I needed in my head. I needed a way to go, I guess. And that's what really helped me.
Man, that's like what you just said is like so valuable, and not necessarily for like people who will join my program, but if you buy a course, right? Because at the end of the day, you have two options. You either go the free way and then you need to spend a lot of time and you have to try things out to make that thing work, and it might or might not work because you do not see the bigger
The whole,
picture.
yeah, you don't see the big ecosystem. You're kind of
Or
lost in it.
or you can come to work with me or another person, but you need to want to make it work. Like
Right. Yeah.
you need to make it work. And if you have that mindset shift, which is very simple, very subtle, but very hard to achieve,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you do not have, if you're not mature enough, and this maturity doesn't, is not translated from your age, you can be extremely mature at 18, or you can
Sure.
be extremely immature at 40.
Yeah.
So if you
And
do not have that maturity to make it happen, then you will not make it happen with any type of help. Really, I'm
yeah.
really happy that you brought this up, bro, to be honest.
Yeah. And a lot of that, I feel like maturity or direction or kind of realization, whatever you want to call it, came from just having really bad jobs, just being in really
Uh-huh.
shitty spots. And then I found myself in a very fortunate position with some runway to spend some time building a skill that I really wanted to do. And I said, well, I want to do something I enjoy. And so I didn't just
Uh-huh.
spend time like it was a job, but I spent time doing it because I wanted to do it. So not only was I spending like a job amount of time learning, but I was also doing it in a position of, I want to be here. I want to be doing this. This is something I find fun. So those two things combined is really what took that, not having a problem like going, how do I take this farther? Right? I want to take it farther. It's not
Yeah.
just like, how do I take it farther so I can get paid more? No,
I was uh
I don't
I
I
was
want to
having
do
this
it.
conversation with a friend, and I told him like,
Yeah.
bro, he kept telling me about like side hustles that he wants to try and everything. And I said, bro, look, you are 32. You do not have time for side hustles. Like you need to figure out something and you just need to make it work, you know?
Yeah, it's rough finding our path sometimes. So
Well,
I
but if you
completely
do not
understand.
have your path, your job is to find your path.
Yeah, exactly. But sometimes that financial freedom gets difficult. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but it's like you either choose to stay where you are and struggle like that, or struggle to find out what you want to do and then struggle to make it work.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
is,
The choice comes from within for sure.
in any way, shape, or form, you will struggle in one way or another. You know, I started doing this. There's no point where you are in nirvana and life is a breeze. You'll always struggle with something, no matter what it is. You know, so that's how
Yeah,
that's my recent life philosophy, and
sure.
it's it makes things easier to digest. You know.
I've been doing a lot of Alan Watts lately, so I have a little bit of a different philosophy, but I mean, I
Uh-huh.
see what you're saying. We all have our own paths, and every one of them are valid. And
There is
if
no
you
right or
want to
wrong, right?
struggle, if you
There is
feel
no
like you
right
need
or
to
wrong. Yeah.
struggle, then that's just what we gotta do.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about sim racing, but maybe later. Okay. So, what are your plans now that you are a developer? Like, what do you plan to do in the next, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? Do you have a
Get
plan?
out of debt.
Okay, like student loan or
I
what?
didn't go too far in that doing that. I only have a few little IOUs I need to pay back, but yeah, I mean, getting a little bit more sound, finishing up this room, I think are first thing on my list. But career wise, like what I want to do as a dev in tech, I uh I kind of want to get more into architecture. I
Uh-huh.
don't want to get too far away from code because I love coding, and I know that architecture isn't necessarily code
Yeah.
unless you're doing architecture as code.
Yeah.
But um, yeah, I'd like to get into seeing how these projects are set up, how they're maintained, what goes into making sure that you have a 99.9999999% uptime right on your website. What are backups? How do you make sure failures don't go through? Things like that. So getting more integrated with higher level concepts, and not only like writing the code that makes the code base run, but what are the services and things that are offered that you can keep your website on the ground, off the ground, working 100% of the time.
Mm.
Um, so
How
it's a
did you how did you get a job? Like, how was the job search process?
Oh, it was brutal, man. I was grinding like crazy every day.
Can you define grinding?
Yeah.
Because the reason why I'm asking you to define grinding is because sometimes when you say I'm working hard, you can only compare it with yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe if we put what you did in perspective, if you define what you did, then people can realize maybe they're not working as hard. You know?
Sure. Um,
So let's discuss that.
So I think that mental health is super important. So taking care of yourself first and foremost is what you need to be doing. I was at my computer desk ready to really put down some work at 9 a.m. and I was leaving it around 5 p.m. every day, about an hour in the middle for lunch, taking a walk to kind of clear my mind and get a nice reset in. But between those break areas that I just mentioned, I'm at my computer. If I'm not actively like hacking away at a networking plan, I'm working on building my networking plan. So I would say I wanted the best work to come out of me, and that usually happens in the morning
Yep.
from 9 to 12, 9 to lunch, I would say. I was pure social media,
Explain.
LinkedIn, sending out tons of requests, each one of those requests having an actual personalized message, not
Uh-huh.
just like, and I found a way to kind of hack together a personalized message depending on who I was talking to pretty quickly, without having to sit there and rewrite each one. But each one had a personalized message, and we're sending out 50 to 60 in that 3 hour period every single
How were
day.
you able to send so many requests on LinkedIn? Did you pay for premium or did you?
I got premium for free 1 month because they offered it and I took it, and that's how I was able to do it. Unfortunately, premium costs a lot of money, so I understand there's a lot of people who
But
might not be
I
able to.
thought you can only send 100 requests per week. What did you do?
Oh, when you have premium, I think you can go more than that.
Really? Well, I
Yeah, I was blasting away when I had premium,
uh-huh.
like just cranking them out. Um, and then whenever I got one that would accept, I would follow up with them if they
Like
didn't
right
actually
away.
send a message back. And I'd be like, hey, I meant in my connect message, I mentioned maybe doing a coffee chat or something like that. Do
Mhm.
you have time? Right. So they know that I'm not just a bot sending out connection requests trying to up my connections.
Yeah.
And then probably if they did have time, I tried to schedule them after that 5 p.m. marker, because when I got back from lunch around 1 o'clock, 1 to 5 was putting in the work to Squared, or one of the projects that I was building, crypto app. All these different actually retaining the skill and sharpening the skill that I plan to bring to an employer, because the actual search, the actual job search, I think started in September 22nd, and we didn't find any results. For me, I didn't find any results until about March. Well, no, sorry, midway through February.
When I was in Thailand.
What?
When I was in Thailand in February.
Yeah, midway through February, around that area. So it was one hell of a grind. And so you think about that long term, you're gonna have, if you're going to be looking for a job and you're gonna be really pumping them out, this could be a 4 to 6 month process, if not longer. You need to be taking care of yourself.
When
You need to have a schedule that's sustainable for you.
That's a good point, bro. Yeah.
You can't just
You don't
burn
want
out in
to
the
kill
first 2 weeks
yourself.
and
You
then
need
give
to
up.
figure out how to do it forever.
Yeah, you can sustain doing it. This isn't chipping away at you.
Yeah.
And so getting a breakfast in, that's why I got to my computer at 9 instead of 8, right? I wanted 8 to 9 to be breakfast. 12 to 1, get a solid lunch in. At 5, I'm gonna eat some dinner, and then I'm gonna do some coffee chats after. Like, it was all about sustaining my nutrition, making sure I was going on walks so I'm not sitting in this chair all day, but also putting in the hours that I needed to put in to get
There's
any.
no work around the hours,
Yeah, there's no cheating the hours. So I mean, sometimes I'm not going to say that was my strictest schedule.
Yeah, but
Sometimes I would work 2 or 3 hours in the afternoon on networking, because I feel like I didn't get enough done 9 to 12, or I did too much planning and not an actual networking. And so, like, certain days changed a little bit,
yeah.
but yeah, it was like a bare minimum of 3 to 4 hours a day networking for 6 months, and then sometimes more than that. And that's not including the many coffee chats that I had after 5 p.m. with people in industry. And it was awesome to meet them. Not everybody had a door. And a lot of times I wouldn't even mention, like, hey, get me hired, or things like, you guys have a position, like, that I was interested in getting hired with them. But a lot of times these coffee chats, they just come out with him like, so what are you looking to get out of this? And I'm like, well, I'm networking to build a network, I've honed my skill and I'd like to find a position that works for me. So I'm getting to know, like, what you do, things like that. And they're like, oh, well, I wish I could extend something to you. Unfortunately, this, that, and the other. People would be super honest and super friendly about, like, if they can or cannot help me. It wasn't something I needed to
don't
try out.
hesitate to go for it, pretty much.
Yeah, no, I'm a little bit more
Ballsy.
withdrawn in that fact. There's definitely room to be more aggressive.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But that's just not my path. So I took my path, and my path worked out okay for me.
When would you recommend people to I don't want to talk about people outside of the program, because I most of the time, I don't know if you saw any of my portfolio reviews, but they are like horrible. And the thing is, like, I know they can do it, but they just don't know how much they should do before I would even consider them ready. Like, exactly what
Yeah.
we were talking in the beginning, right? A lot of people reach level 2, they think they are level 10, but they will never get higher because
Yeah.
they are ready yet, and they just don't realize it. They don't have that perspective,
I was the same way, man. I thought I was coming in at level 10.
That's
I'm
why
at the
when we had the call, that's why I said, look, let's talk another time,
Oh, no. I mean, I
remember
thought
that?
I came out of your program at level 10, like, going into this job. And then I met some of the devs I work with, and they are fucking
Yeah, bro,
smart
this is
people.
like, but even
Smart.
when we spoke for the first time, like, I didn't want
Yeah.
to work with you because I knew that you think that you are level 10 and it's gonna be very difficult for me to coach you.
Yeah. I got a little bit of an ego.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, everyone has an ego, but
Yeah.
um, for the guys in the program, when would you recommend them to start like the networking stuff?
Um, that's a really good
Because you
question.
have the crypto app, the team project. Like, when would you say, because the guys that are
Like
the crypto app,
like
they're
job
usually like,
searching networking, I'd
yeah,
say, like, when you're getting to the end of the program, when you're like in the final one or two projects, when you're working in Square or something. But like that's just like I'm ready to get hired. Somebody give me a chance. Somebody give me an interview type networking. Like that's hard networking. Don't be afraid to start right away. I mean, don't be afraid to be on LinkedIn. Um, you don't have to be putting all these newbies posts like, oh, I learned what toArray does today, or I learned how to use the
Yeah.
string method. Like, you don't need to be putting those posts out there, but ask people, talk to them about, show interest in their lives, right? That are in the industry. Be like, well, man, I really love what you're doing. This is so cool and inspiring. Can you tell me a little bit about it? Like, get a feel from people. You don't
Be
have to
interested.
expose how new you are.
It's like a
Show
skill in
interest.
itself, you know, like being interested in something
Yeah,
or in
yeah.
someone.
Get in, start working, building yourself a network and a community. And then when you are ready, and you can start posting some interesting stuff and stuff you're working with, you know, you have that network that can look back on you, and you might have shortened your time a little bit. If you treat that networking part as a hobby in the beginning and not like an actual like hardcore thing. But you could start super early if you want. I wouldn't say it's time to start grinding networking like for a job until you're getting close to the end.
Yeah, yeah, gotcha. How was your experience in the team project? You already doxed it a few times. We were supposed to keep it secret, but it's okay. Um, what did you learn in the team project?
Yeah, my bad.
Okay,
I didn't
nobody's
know
gonna find the website anyway. We have
that.
an extra word.
Okay. It was awesome. I don't know if Harpreet's still working on it. Harpreet was an
Harpreet
absolute
is
monster
freelancing, I think, right now.
because he's a freaking beast, is
He
why.
actually made an app. I don't know if you know, but he made an
Yeah,
app,
yeah.
sold it, and now he's
You
getting
got
paid.
like 2 or 3 people using it too.
Yeah,
Companies, sorry, not people.
yeah,
2 or 3 companies like that invested in his project.
yeah.
That's awesome, man. Like that's a dream come true.
Savvy.
Harpreet, that's freaking good on him.
Yeah.
But he's an absolute delight to work with, along with a lot of other people on our team. You know, Ed was awesome to work with. Um, it's just been so long. I don't remember everybody, unfortunately, off the top of my head. But just getting rid of that ego, man. Like when you write your own stuff, you get really full of yourself, and then you see other people's way of doing things, and everybody's got a different way of approaching. That's what coding's about. You can do it a million different ways. What's the best way, right? And like you look at other people's stuff, and you're like, "Oh, my way is better." And then you get in, you start coding with them, and you're trying to write amends on code that's already in there, and you're like, "Why would they have done this?" and stuff like that. You start to get past all that.
Oh,
And that's really what was valuable for me, like hopping into Gatsby with what we're doing now. There is some like the devs I work with aren't the ones to write it, but there are some stuffs that are like, why would they have done this? But that's not what I'm dwelling on. That's not what I'm focusing on. I'm not bringing that toxic behavior to the workplace. I'm bringing solution oriented behavior. I think getting that out of your system early by working in that team project was super beneficial in that fashion.
would you be able to create that team project by yourself with some other buddies from 100 devs or like a Discord?
I don't know enough people that are interested and were at my skill level. So it would have been very difficult to get a cohesive and committed group of people together and work on a team project like that. I mean, I'm sure there's like people with friends groups out there who would do something like that with them, but I don't, I didn't have that kind of resource. So no, I wouldn't be able to do it on my own.
What would you recommend to a student from the program?
What's that?
What would you recommend to a student from the program? Like, what advice would you give them if they would watch this? Probably they would, but like, what would be like besides don't give up and all that bullshit, which is true, it's necessary, but like
Yeah.
some insider tip.
There is wanting to be a developer, and then there is going to be a developer. There is a mindset switch that happens when you really know it's going to be what you do. And I think that's something that Harpreet, like for example, he didn't need a job for this to be successful for him. He knew he wanted to be a developer, and he built something super useful. And now he's an entrepreneurial developer, which I feel like is one of the best paths that you probably take.
Yeah.
There's a difference between I want the job and I'm going to get it. And I think when that little mindset switch happens, that's when your network planning happens. That's when you start spending dedicated hours during the day making sure that happens, because it's a gradual bit by bit thing. It's a numbers game. You play it. Is the market saturated? Yeah, 100% it is. But it's saturated with a bunch of people out there that want to be developers, not that are going to be developers. So once you have that mindset switch that is like, this isn't just something I'm going after. This is what I do now. This is it. Like, I'm getting this. I'm not letting anything get in my way. I'm
You
going
come
after it every day.
you come across to me as a very like pragmatic guy, and usually like pragmatic people, they don't really talk about mindset because they are like, oh, this is bullshit, you know. This is
Oh no,
wish,
mindset's
right?
incredibly important. Yeah.
And did you develop this with coding, yeah? Like getting into this industry? Because before you told me like you had those jobs that you didn't like, and probably
No,
the mindset wasn't there. Or like, yeah, can you walk me through that?
I think that I've had just in my career, I came out with a master's in chemistry and I never really
Like my
did
dad,
chemistry.
yeah,
What?
like my
Yeah,
dad.
I just I found something that I would want, and I would go after it with like my whole force. I would decide that this is something I'm going to do now. And when that decision was made, it was inevitable that it would be something I wanted to do. And so I think this is the third thing that I've like outside of chemistry that I've like studied for and then got a license for. I didn't really need a license for this one, I guess, but and then just got hired and started doing. And so I think after seeing that successfully happen once or twice in my life, coming into coding,
You are
it was
able to
just that
tap into
same
it.
thing. Yeah, exactly. I was able to tap into it. I was able to be like, all right, well, this is it. I'm going for it. Like, this isn't something I want to do. This is something I'm doing. And then did.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And all those things in the past helped you out with this one, you know, like
yeah,
I kind
100%.
of failed at making music and at being an artist and painting, but those things helped me out with learning how to code and then with this business, you know, you figure
Yeah,
out stuff, you know, so they all compound.
100%. 100%.
Who would you recommend this program to, and who wouldn't you recommend this program to?
People who are just typing hello world into a console log, I would not recommend this program to.
Me either.
I'm sorry. I was there. I was in the same seat as you, if that is you. You need foundation. You need to know where things are wrong. There are people out there who pick up programming. They don't need a coach. They just fucking, it clicks and they know how to do it. And then they just fucking go through it. They're very rare breed people. But more than likely what will happen when you start to learn is you're going to spot errors. You're going to spot flaws. You're going to spot gaps in your knowledge. Being very aware of those things and knowing where those things are inside of you, what you want to improve, what you're happy about, what concepts are difficult for you to understand, what concepts are easy or strengths for you. Having a really good grasp on knowing that field of information of your learning. Once you have that, I think that this program is a really, really great tool for you because you get to start to fill in those gaps quickly. You get to start to make leaps and bounds over the things that were holding you back. But if like you don't know those things yet, if you don't know where your shortcomings are, what might make sense and what's hard to understand, you're just not going to get a lot out of your program because you're going to be learning those things in the program. And it's just your value could be so much more with the one-on-one time, or not one-on time, one-on-many time that you give in the meetings. I mean, you schedule one-on-ones with people when they need it, but you're not going to get the value that you can get out of these community meetings essentially if you don't know where what you want to work on is, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it. I would say this is more like uh for that person that will become a programmer rather than wants to become a programmer. And
Yeah.
that person who will become a programmer already started doing something about it.
Right. And like when you're typing hello world in the console log and you're writing your first JavaScript script and things like that, like you don't know that you're going to become I didn't when I first started, right? I'm just learning the basics. I'm just figuring out if this is something I like or not. But you know, after I had been doing it for a few months and I was in it and I was like, this is what I want. I'm becoming obsessed with improving, becoming obsessed with wanting to do things better. You know, that's at the point where I was getting to the point where I'm like, yeah, this is what I want. What's the next step in my plan to get it? And having that time in our well, the whole course together, honestly, was just more than I expected. I expected it to be just a bare bones meat grinder thing, and it turned out to be a
Yeah,
very fleshed
well,
out
bro, the thing is,
community. And
I bought a lot of courses, as I told you about, even the
yeah,
sim racing, yeah.
yeah,
So I bought a lot of courses in my life, and
old course junkie.
uh, yeah, and some were way more expensive than what I charge, like way more expensive. And
Sure.
when I was getting into them, I was like, is this it? Uh, and then my goal was to make sure that if someone joins, will not say that, you know,
Yeah.
because yeah, I spent a lot of. I feel sorry for myself, but for how much I spent. But I've learned a lot of things, right? And sometimes, as a side note, probably you'll buy other courses in the future. One tip that I can give you is to not look to change your life from a course, but look for like one golden nugget,
Hmm.
because that really helped me out from having that feeling of like taking advantage of or whatever, having that victim
Right.
mindset. Because
Well, that we're talking about like those video courses on you know, Ninja Tutorial or all these different course programs. We're not talking about a program like this. Like there was much more than one little nugget that I pulled out of it. There was much more value. This wouldn't compare like a video course or a GA assembly course. This is more like a, what do you need right now? What do you need out of it to get you to the point that you want to be? Sort of thing. So if you have like an end goal where you want to go and you know very well where you are right now, I would
to use
recommend
me,
like this course. What?
you need to use me.
Yeah, yeah, you gotta use you, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like, as weird as that sounds, or as
No, it's
maybe
not weird. It makes
insensitive
sense.
as it sounds, like,
But that's why I always say, like, you need to
yeah,
use me, because if you don't use
yeah.
me, then
But if you just like you just come in, you're like, well, let's do some algorithms every day, like, bro, you can fucking wake up and do some code wars. Excuse my language, you can bleep me out, sorry. But anybody can wake up and do some code wars. Like you can practice algorithms on your own. You don't need a community to help you with that.
yeah,
Um, it's what do you want? Like, why do you not understand that problem? Why are you having a hard time getting to the end? Where is the gap in your knowledge? What are you not connecting?
you need to ask
And
yourself. Like, there is a lot of introspection.
yeah, 100%. And that introspection brings to light what I need to get from you, right? What I need to ask you for, and really get a lot of value out of meetings. And
And I also like whenever I get asked a good question.
yeah, 100%. Well, I like it sometimes when I was asking you a good question and you wouldn't have an answer to it. Because what that meant to me is that like I had reached a level in programming that the answers weren't as clear as day anymore. It wasn't as simple as like, well,
I
use
never
this
thought about
JavaScript
it
method.
that way, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like I've gotten to a point where now we're talking about more advanced shit. Sorry, again.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I swear all the time, so don't worry.
Okay, cool. But now we're talking about more advanced topics, and the answer isn't just one answer. And so the what I can bounce off of you, now you can give me banter back that gives me good direction, and then maybe I have an idea or inspiration from that direction that stimulates more questions that I can ask you.
Yeah,
And you know, that just starts going back and forth, and it
yeah.
creates a thread and a direction,
That's a
and
good
it
point.
starts pushing
Where
you into a direction that you want to go. So
That's a good point. When I don't have the answer like right away,
yeah.
but you're asking a good question.
Yeah, exactly. You're asking a good question. That doesn't mean that you know, you're working with someone who's not knowledgeable. You're working at a level. Like programming starts out like learn the basics and then very quickly
Yeah,
becomes this giant world, right? That's just almost infinite. So
yeah.
yeah, it feels good to get to that point and have those professional kind of conversations back and forth, and really work on developing that skill. Because I mean, that's what you're going to be doing if you get the job, right? You're going to be having those conversations with a
All the time.
project manager with someone who understands code and concepts, but not exactly your problem. And you're going to need to use them a little bit to get to the solution that you want to get to. That's why they're there. That's why they have a salary at the company, because you can bounce off of them. So
Did you have a hard time like transitioning from the program to the job?
bro,
Like,
the first week was nerve wracking. I overhyped every single problem, overcomplicated every single bug and ticket, and was like, I'm not cut out for it. And then the next week I realized that all of those things were things that I had like learned very early on. And I started to calm down and let that
you're overthinking,
anticipation
bro.
wash away.
It's like
Um,
when you play a game, right? Like first person
yeah,
shooter. If you think about I need to aim there, that's it.
you miss every time.
Yeah, you have to relax, bro. Like that's
Relax. Yeah, I was so tense that first week. Like, I gotta make it. I gotta prove myself. I was stiff and just trying to force everything to work, and nothing was really giving. And then I relaxed, realized, wow, this is exactly what I've been doing this whole time. Okay, no, I can relax a little bit. And then I started flying through bugs. I
the
started,
same thing, but it just looks different.
second week, I had like 2 or 3 PRs in. Um, third to fourth week that I was working there, they gave me like a whole section of the website to flush out on my own, like a nice 4 week project that I started working on, and then working with QA to get that through the door and live in
What did
production.
they think about your code? Were they commenting a lot on your code, or like what did they say about your style?
They are Everybody I work with is not shy to say, we can do this better. We should do this in this style. But I got a lot of compliments actually. They're like, hey, you have a lot of really good habits.
Can you
You're
name a few?
naming stuff in a
Oh
way
yeah,
that's cohesive
yeah.
and is, reads well, makes the component read well.
Yeah.
And like
That's like the thing that I'm a freak about.
yeah,
If
name
I,
stuff good.
bro, everyone thinks I'm taking the piss when I'm talking about that, but
It's
it's like
so important.
really the most not, but it's like top five at least.
Dude, I see some wacky stuff like this. Like there's a function that was made to reset this dispatch state, and they named it something like um I can't think of the name right now, but it had nothing to do with clearing state out or resetting state. It was like uh some totally
Yeah,
irrelevant action.
yeah, yeah.
And I was just like, it took me forever to figure out what this freaking function is doing. All it's doing is resetting Redux state. Like, son of a, if you would have just taken some time to name this.
Bro, it's one of the hardest thing to do in programming, like naming
Yeah,
stuff.
it is. It is, but it's a really good skill to have. So I got a lot of compliments. The habits. I got a lot of, thumbs up, great job kind of stuff. But in the same breath, anytime somebody saw a shortcoming, hey, that's not quite, perfect, they would always explain it to me why. And then, they would never shy away from being direct with me, like, hey, let's
Good.
button this up.
That means you'll grow pretty fast, not like me, lead developer.
Yeah.
Lead developer of myself. Yeah, really, it was really tough, bro. Like you think you are so good, and in fact you are horrible, and you don't know how to use Git and stuff like that. I was working on 3 features on the same branch. There were no code reviews. There is no linter. There's no nothing, bro. Nothing.
I forgot to mention that. That was super important. About the group project, Git management, branch management, knowing when to make commits. You're going to make tons of mistakes when you're learning this. And if you're doing it by yourself, you're probably not learning from them very quickly. Working with other people will definitely show you how you're messing up or how you could be doing things more efficiently with Git management as well. And Git management is your number one tool when you're working professionally. It is the branch, it's the underlying tool of everything. It helps things move through a system so that you can get code from test and development into production. And so if you are good with Git management, and it's basic, but if you're good with it,
It's the basics, bro. But
it's such a huge thing that companies don't need to worry about teaching you and sitting there and grinding away at you. It's nobody wants to teach you how to use Git. I'm sorry. They don't want to do it. It's so basic and sometimes confusing for them. Like they know it, they know how they want to use it. And that's the end of it. Like come in with some Git management experience.
I want to ask you about this, right? because I do teach Git, obviously. But I don't know if you how many courses have you seen, but everyone says you should learn Git in your first day. Like everyone says that. But I do not show it to you until you reach the crypto app. And my reasoning is because I thought about it. It's not like I just did it for the sake of doing it. My thought was, as a noob, you don't need to worry about that. You just need to build stuff. And then later, when you reach the crypto app, that's when you need to learn how to use it, you know? But at that time, when you learn how to use Git, you do not have to also worry about writing code, you know? So coding, it's like something that you can do, and then you add this extra skill set. And then you actually have something to push. I know you were using it before, but what do you think about this approach? What's
I was using it very loosely before, and my understanding
pushing
exploded when we got to
algorithms?
that point in the program. But yeah, I actually completely agree with this philosophy, because if you don't know how to build something, what good is your scaffolding?
Yeah.
Like if you're not building things correctly, what good is scaffolding? And that's all Git is. It's scaffolding to building projects in a clean and fashionable method that makes it easy to maintain. So yeah, you should probably teach that later on. Otherwise, all these concepts, branches, pull
They don't make
requests,
sense. They
pushings. Yeah,
abstract.
it's abstract. It falls apart in your brain. You don't have a place to put them. Doesn't You don't have anything to put inside of the concepts that you're forming. So being able to flush out a feature or something like that, being able to build out a program and understanding like where were places that you made lots of progress, where were things that were kind of harder. It kind of helps you organize, well, what is a branch? How can I use a branch? Why am I just making commits after every little change that I'm doing, or am I now making commits on milestones in developing a feature? Like it's the difference of just using
Like
Git
using the thing,
properly and
yeah,
like
intentionally,
being able to put commands into your console, I guess.
right? Yeah, it's using it intentionally because you know how to use
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Good points, bro. Good conversation, man. I could go forever.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's pretty easy to talk about it, and it's fun too. Um, yeah.
Anything else that you want to add?
Um, no, I think we really hit the nail on it. I would say that um, I I'm probably beating it up by saying this because I already said it before, but I expected to go through a meat grinder in your program, and your program changed with the times, and I would expect it to do that in the future as the times change. So if you're looking for something where somebody's developed the program 10 years ago and they're just putting it out for everybody who wants to pay a couple grand of money and go through it, then look elsewhere. If you're looking for something where you know what you need to get out of it, you have a tailored direction of learning that you want to achieve, this course is a great place to do it. You're going to get all the experience and more that goes into having a professional position. Um, but if you, like I said,
You
if you
have
go
to
in
do it.
here and this is your tutorial, then yeah, I don't know, man. It's just another tutorial. Like you don't come out of tutorials perfect.
Yeah. If you want to come in and make it work for you, I think this is a great place. Plus, you'll make my life way easier if you come in wanting to make it work.
Yeah.
I don't want to, like, again, I don't want to drag you by your hand, like, hey, let's write some code, you know, like I
Well,
don't
I
have
mean,
time for that, and I don't want to, it's not something that I take uh that I'm that I enjoy doing, like dragging people to do stuff, you know, like
yeah. I mean, you
hey,
don't get a degree out of this. Like
okay,
you're not going to class every day because you get a degree at the end of the day. Like you get what you want out of the course.
yeah.
If you want somebody to teach you how to do array prototypes and things like
It's like
that,
you come with
like,
a goal and you come,
right?
you need someone to like tell you what you are missing out.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah,
but you have to come in to want to achieve that goal. It's as simple
yeah,
as that, you know.
yeah, exactly.
And
You have to want this. This
and
must be something you want
I
to do.
I have been taking that advice. I started to realize this, you know, I'm doing some other stuff on the side, you know, because why not, you know?
Sure.
And I'm thinking about it like, hey, am I willing to make this happen? If not, I'm not gonna do it. Else, I'm gonna go in and do it regardless um, of what the teacher or the program is, how good the program is. I'm gonna make it work because I can do it. So yeah, cool, bro. Thanks for being here on the channel. Was a great time speaking with you. Maybe when the team project is gonna be done, because we are still working on it, we are finishing up a bunch of bugs. Maybe you can present it to your company. Maybe they'll use it. Who knows?
That'd be cool. Yeah, that's one thing. I know we had a small conversation about that a little while ago, like that needing to be done, that need to be perfect to help people get jobs. I think that the act of building it and the work that came from it and that comes from it is way more important than it needing to be finished, just because those skills translate to words and into answers and questions and interviews. Whereas any tech project is always going to be some sort of incomplete. Like
Yeah.
we have a website
Well, the
at Rooms to
first
Go.
parts,
We
and
sell furniture constantly. There is
yeah,
never ending bug list
yeah.
on our docket. We always have new things to be implementing, always things to fix, and that part never goes away. The product's never finished. So it's more about the journey, and that really comes through when you're sitting across from somebody and they want to know, well, what kind of developer are you? You have something to tell because you have experience behind it.
Sometimes I'm like, the guys are frustrated as they're building it because they do experience these things
Yeah, of
and they
course.
think it's not normal,
Mm.
and they think they are doing something wrong, or that the program is wrong, or the team project is wrong. And in my mind, I'm like, you guys are just experiencing the real world right now. It's not pink.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
but
not
they just
glamour.
don't have that reference experience to really believe me that that's how it actually is in the real world.
Bro, not everything gets QA'd on the first, not everything works the first try. Like we had these developers, we have some contractors we hire out as well, and they're freaking like crazy good developers. And they've been developing this whole like branch of a feature that we're rolling out in a week or so. And at the beginning of this week, the whole branch and PR coagulation got confused and messed up and this, that, and the other. We're talking about people who have been in the industry for over 10 years, all working on the same team. And the whole thing just got blew out and confused and nobody knew like what version we were on or what was happening. And like, that happens. It's part of life. And it's not about complaining about the problem that you're dealing with, but it's fixing it and developing like that experience of coming up with solutions and getting through problems. And that's how, that's the meat and potatoes when you get into an interview and they're like, well, why are you good for the team? Why do you do this? Well, I fix shit. I make shit work. Like I
How do you
enjoy
deal with stress?
tackling
Well,
problems.
if you've never been
Um,
stressed, how do you know how to deal with stress?
yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents on
Or
that
when
part.
or when they want to kill me, sometimes in the meet.
It's more about the journey than the destination. And that's why near the end when I was grinding my networking, I didn't have a problem laying off. Like I know there was this urgency to finish the project and get this done and get to the next milestone. And I'm like, I just
Well,
want to
that
keep my
was
skills
mainly for
sharp.
me
Like,
because I'm a project manager, right?
yeah, but I'm just there. I'm like, well, as long as I'm tackling a problem, as long as I'm learning something every day, like I have more value for my conversations and networking. I have more value for my conversations and interviews. So I'm
That's
good.
why you're a developer and I'm project manager.
I wasn't worrying. I wasn't stressing. I was just like, we develop. That's what we do.
When I got pissed off, remember when I was like, because I
Yeah.
sometimes get pissed off. So it's not like,
Yeah, we get goal oriented. We all do. But
yeah.
yeah.
All right, bro.
All right, dude. Of
Uh, Thank you very much, man. I appreciate you. Thank you for
course.
your time from going to Home Depot, your favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a
Uh,
project to finish up behind me too.
I'll let you do it, bro. Speak
All
with you
right.
soon. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
See ya.